and welcome to episode 3 of On the Road with Ranger Rose. I'm Roseanne McHenry, also known as Ranger Rose, and today we are going to take an exciting trip to Death Valley National Park. Now, I worked at Death Valley for several winter seasons as a National Park Ranger. And you know, Death Valley, well, most people think of Death Valley as a hostile, barren wasteland with scorching temperatures. And in summertime, that's somewhat true because record temperatures have been recorded there in the low 130s. That's pretty hot. But in the wintertime, that's the place to be because it is sunny and bright, 60, 65 degrees, crystal clear skies, and it is absolutely beautiful. There are colorful canyons, hidden waterfalls, beautiful big valleys and snow-capped peaks. It's absolutely a breathtaking place to be in the winter. So we're going to talk about how to get to Death Valley, what there is to see when you do there, and how best to explore it. So before you go, a couple of things I really want to recommend. First of all, get a copy, you can order this online, of the Death Valley National Park National Geographic map. It's called Trails Illustrated Topographic Map. This is an invaluable resource. It's got contour lines and it's very, very detailed in terms of showing you the park features. Another must-have, I think, because having worked there for several seasons, this was our go-to book whenever somebody came into the visitor center and asked us what there was to see and do in the park. This is called Hiking Death Valley, A Guide to Its National Wonders and Mining Past by Michel Diganet. Just remember Hiking Death Valley. That's the name of this book, and it's a great resource to have. So how do you get to Death Valley? That's also an important thing to know. Well, there's a lot of different roads that will lead you there. The first way, and the favorite way for me, is to take Highway 80 right up over Donner Summit, head down all the way through Reno until you get to Fernley, Nevada, then hook a right and take Highway 95 all the way south down to Beatty, Nevada. Beatty is the eastern gateway into Death Valley National Park, and there's a beautiful road, Highway 374, that will take you straight into the park. Another popular route is to go down Highway 395 all the way to Lone Pine, California, and then head east. If there's snow in the Sierras and you can't get over Donner Summit, then take Highway 5 south all the way to the Tehachapi area and then head east. So whichever road you take, it's going to be a beautiful way to come into the park. Now, one note of caution, always check road conditions before you leave. I'm talking the day you leave because an overnight storm can change road conditions, especially in the winter. But at any rate, once you arrive in the park, what there is to see and do. First of all, I want to just talk up, this is the park map that you'll get when you get there, and they give you a couple different free maps and information. Death Valley is 3.4 million acres. It is the biggest national park in the lower 48 states. Only Alaska has a larger park. So you definitely want to know your way around. And this map shows you the main hub of the park. There's two main hubs, Furnace Creek over here, and just 30 minutes away is Stovepipe Wells. And both places offer full range of amenities, including food, gas, camping, lodging, shops, and restaurants. Furnace Creek is the larger of the two hubs, and it offers a visitor center, which that is definitely where you want to start out on your exploration journey. So the Furnace Creek Visitor Center is right there. The National Park Visitor Center is right there in the center of Furnace Creek, and you just go on. It's open every day, generally from 8 to 5, or on slower days 10 to 4. Check for the times. But the park staff are really happy there to answer all of your questions. Just walk in, you'll find several of them behind the counter. Tell you about walks and talks, guided walks and talks that the ranger staff gives. They also do junior ranger programs for the kids. There's 2 large exhibit rooms. There's a gift shop and auditorium. Great place to start out your journey. And they also do evening programs and night sky talks. We'll talk more about night sky talks a little later. Stovepipe Wells, just 30 minutes away to the northwest, is the smaller of the two hubs, offers all the same amenities, just a little bit more quiet and less hustle bustle over there. That's where I love to stay when we go. We go every January. And the sunsets are drop dead gorgeous out there. As the sun sets and shines against the mountains, it is just breathtaking. It looks like you're in a painting. It's so beautiful out there. So now that we have an idea, let's set out and take a look around. First and foremost, never leave anywhere without water. Make sure you have at least a couple gallons of water in your car. And if you go out on a hike, always take a couple liters with you. Even in winter, people have passed out or even died a short distance from their car, especially in summer, without water. So always have it with you. Near Furnace Creek, there are 3 beautiful areas, all within a 10-minute drive. The first is Golden Canyon. We're going to talk about Golden Canyon, Zabriskie Point, and Artist Drive to start out with. Golden Canyon is just a couple miles south of Furnace Creek, and you can drive right up to the mouth of the canyon, park, and walk in. And it is a stunning wonderland. It's a maze of side canyons, and you can walk a short distance, or you can walk a couple miles to the back to Red Cathedral Ridge, or you can hike up, over, and out into the adjacent canyon called Gower Gulch and make a beautiful, colorful 6.5-mile round-trip loop hike. Allow about 4 hours for that if you decide to do it, and pick up maps and information on that trail at the Visitor Center. The Golden Canyon is beautiful, and one of the fun things to know about that area is Star Wars was filmed there in Golden Canyon, in nearby Desolation Canyon, and also over in the, we're going to visit a little bit later, 20 Mule Team Canyon Road. So when you're walking back through Golden Canyon, sometimes you'll see people with their GPS devices trying to figure out exactly where those Star Wars scenes were filmed. So, you might see R2-D2, C-3PO out there. You might even see Luke Skywalker walking along a distant ridge. It looks like an alien landscape, so that's not too far from the truth. But directly above Golden Canyon is Zabriskie Point, and you can drive right up to Zabriskie Point. Just head back and then take Highway 190 East. That's the main road that goes through the park. After a short distance, you'll see a sign that says Zabriskie Point. Turn and park, walk up a short distance up a hill, and you will be rewarded with the most striking panoramic view of Death Valley. It is breathtaking. You'll be looking out over all these colorful badlands, which those are remnants of ancient lakes that existed millions of years before Death Valley was ever born. And then gradually Death Valley, which is a huge chunk of the Earth's crust, is slowly sinking down, 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 still sinking today at a noticeable rate. But Death Valley is over 2 miles deep, and so water eroded out these ancient lake deposits and created these beautiful badlands. So it's definitely worth a hike up to Zabriskie Point. You can hike down from there or just stay up there and enjoy the beautiful view. Heading back down again past Golden Canyon, just a few miles further south on, this is called Badwater Road, you'll see a turnoff for Artist Drive. Now, Artist Drive is the most beautiful place in the whole park. This is where you can take an 8-mile loop that'll bring you up, over, around, and through colorful hills. In fact, it's so colorful out there. It looks like some giant monster artist splashed colors all over the surrounding mountains. It's absolutely stunning out there. So be sure to get out of your car and walk around and take a closer look. Death Valley is great. It's one of the few national parks where you don't have to worry too much about staying on a trail. You can make your own trail. So get out and explore. So heading south from heading south from Artist Drive, it'll loop right back out onto Badwater Road and take you down to Badwater. Badwater is a remnant of what was once a huge lake. Death Valley used to be a giant lake that was anywhere from 600 to 800 feet deep. So if you went back in time about 25,000 years, you'd see nothing but water. There wouldn't be a Death Valley in the sense that we think of it today. So Badwater is a remnant of that ancient lake, and what makes this place so amazing is you can walk out onto this vast salt flat and see these beautiful salt polygons, multi-sided desert tiles with salt crystallizing right up out of the desert. And right now, with all the rain that we've had, there's even a small lake there. A year and a half ago, you could actually see people kayaking out there, which is really an unusual thing in the desert. So Badwater is definitely an amazing place to stop and see, and it's very famous. You'll see people coming there from all over the world. They want to see what Badwater is. Heading back north from Badwater, be sure to turn right onto Natural Bridge Canyon Road. Now this is just a couple-mile long gravel road. You can take your car up it, no problem. Park and walk up canyon because there's a beautiful natural bridge in there. And what's the difference between a natural bridge and an arch? Because this looks like a giant arch. A natural bridge is formed by water rushing down and carving out a tunnel in rock. Whereas an arch, like you might think of Arches National Park, those are all formed by wind erosion, so wind versus water. In Death Valley, it's water that formed this natural bridge. Hike up past the natural bridge, turn around and take some pictures because it's just a stunning view. And then if you have the energy, keep walking because up canyon you'll see a cave. And if you walk all the way to the back, you'll see a dry waterfall with zigzagging rocks in stripes, and you know those rocks are some of the oldest that you could see on the planet. They are almost 2 billion years old. How often do you get to walk up and touch rocks that are 1.7 billion years old? Pretty amazing place. And just above Badwater and Natural Bridge Canyon is Dante's View, and you can actually drive all the way from Badwater, which is over almost 300 feet below sea level, all the way up to Dante's View, which is 5,000 feet above the valley floor. So you just head back up 190, Highway 190 heading east, turn onto Dante's View Road. Now you're going to have to leave your motorhomes or your trailers or your big rigs at the bottom. They'll never make it past the winding hairpin turns at the top. But take your car up there, or a small truck, and when you get up there, you will be rewarded with a sweeping panorama of the entire length, the 100-mile long length of Death Valley. You can look all the way to the north, all the way to the south, all the way west to Mount Whitney in the Sierras, and all the way east past the Amargosa Valley to the Spring Mountains, snow-capped in the distance. And you can see Telescope Peak right in Death Valley rising to over 11,000 feet. So Dante's View is stunning. There's actually a trail that goes along the ridgeline you can take for several miles, and it's definitely worth it if you have the time because the views are incredible up there. Why they call it Dante's View? Well, Dante's Inferno, looking down through all the different layers of hell. So it's a beautiful hell when you're looking down into Death Valley, and it's only hell, remember, in the summertime. In the winter, gorgeous. Coming back down Dante's View Road, you'll hook back into Highway 190, heading back towards Furnace Creek. Now, there's a couple of stop-offs that you might want to make. One is Echo Canyon. Watch for a little sign. You have to watch for it on the right. A little wooden sign that'll say Echo Canyon. Hook a hard right and drive 19 miles back through a narrow, winding canyon. And it's a beautiful canyon narrows, and you'll see all kinds of amazing things. And you get all the way back. There's a little ghost town back there, an old gold mining ghost town called the Inyo Mine. And there was a big gold strike back there in the early 1900s, and it was quite a gold strike. And today you can walk around and see all kinds of mining structures. There's mining equipment scattered all across the ground. Remember, though, you're in a national park, so please leave everything in place. You can tell I'm a park ranger telling you about the rules. But please leave everything in place. But enjoy your time there. It's a great place for a day picnic. You can even camp in there, but you need to make a reservation in advance to do that. So check the park website for information about backcountry camping. With 3.4 million acres, there's lots of places in Death Valley that you can camp besides the established campgrounds. Another great place to stop off as you're heading back down Highway 190 towards Furnace Creek is what I mentioned a little while ago, the 20 Mule Team Canyon. Now this is a little road, goes for a few miles, gravel road takes you back through some of those beautiful badlands that you saw earlier from Zabriskie Point. This is not the route where the 20 mule teams went, though. We're going to get there in a moment. So heading back through Furnace Creek, just north of there, you'll see a little road from Mustard Canyon. Sweet little drive takes you through a mustard-colored canyon, and then you'll end up at the Harmony Borax Works. And this is where those 20 mule teams came into play. And by the way, it wasn't really a 20 mule team. It was 18 mules and 2 horses. But it just sounds cooler to say 20 mule team. So you'll see an old borax processing plant there because there was tons of borax right there at Furnace Creek on the valley floor, washed down from the mountains high above. And they processed the borax right there on the valley floor. And then they loaded it up into these big wagons. And then it took 2 men to trek that 165 miles across the open desert all the way to Mojave. It took them almost 2 weeks in each direction to do that, dragging these wagons across the open desert with those, quote, 20 mule teams. The driver was called a mule skinner, and the brakeman and the fellow who was the brakeman and the cook, he was called the swamper. And those 2 men earned $4 a day and $2 a day respectively. Now that might not sound like a whole lot in today's money, but you know, back then around the early 1900s, most men were lucky to make even $1 a day. So that was good wages for a hard job back then. But imagine what it must have been like trekking across the desert like that in hostile conditions. What a tough job. By the way, what do they use borax for? Why is borax valuable? Why did they call it white gold back then? Well, we all think of the 20 mule team borax laundry detergent. And that stuff is great, by the way. In fact, if you're out in the desert, you see some borax on the ground, rub it with your hands and some water from your canteen, you'll get an instant hand wash. Great stuff. Works great. Borax is also used in makeup. It's used in ceramics. It's used, believe it or not, as a food preservative. It's used in electronics, in computers, in all kinds. It's been used throughout the millennia. So borax has literally hundreds of uses. By the way, how did Death Valley get its name? A lot of people want to know that. You know, why didn't they give it a more beautiful name? The Native Americans called it Timbisha, which means bright red rocks. And I think that's a beautiful name for that park. But it was named Death Valley because the 49ers, when they came into Death Valley, not the football team, the 1849ers, who came out to California in search of gold. Well, they, instead of taking the old Spanish Trail to the south, which was the established and the safe route, they decided to take a, quote, shortcut across Death Valley. There was supposedly some kind of an east-west route that they could take. Well, they were wrong. So they headed down into Death Valley with their oxen-pulled wagons. By the time they got down there, it was too late to turn around. There was no food for their oxen. There was little food for them. They were trapped. They were down there for months, surviving an entire winter. And they eventually had to slaughter their oxen for food, and they had to burn their wagons for fuel. In fact, there's a place called Burnt Wagons Point where they did that. Finally, months later, they found passage out of the valley, but they had to do it on foot, bringing only what they could carry on their back. So a woman turned around on the way out and said, "Goodbye, Death Valley." And that name stuck, and that's how the park got its name. So, if you continue from Furnace Creek and you head west now on Highway 190, there's a little road called the Beatty Cutoff Road, and that will take you back into the eastern corner of the park to a stunning hydrothermal geologic area called the Keene Wonder Mine. In the early 1900s, right around 1904, a miner named Jack Keene, who was scouting around, discovered a huge rich vein of gold. And he worked together with several others, formed claims and then a corporation, and they built the Keene Wonder Mine. And no wonder it was a wonder, because what they did was built an aerial tramway to take the gold ore all the way from the mountaintop way above and trucked it all the way down the mountain. Now, this aerial tramway was an engineering wonder of its time. In fact, that aerial tramway is the great-great-granddaddy of our modern-day ski lifts. So it was amazing that they built this in the early 1900s. Truly an engineering marvel. So when you get to the Keen Wonder Mine, at the bottom you're going to see a mill rock processing site, and then you'll see this tramway. And if you are in good shape, you can take the 1.7-mile steep trail up the mountainside to the top of the aerial tramway terminus, and you'll see the mine. So it's an amazing place to go, and the views from up there are just gorgeous. So the Keen Wonder Mine. Then coming back out on Highway 190, you're going to start heading over towards the Stovepipe Wells area. But before you get there, you're going to see a road on the right. It's called North Road or Scotty's Castle Road. Now, a lot of people ask about Scotty's Castle. It's still closed. There was a major flood there a number of years ago, and they're still trying to get that area repaired. But the North Road, Scotty's Castle Road, has a lot of other things to go and see. And one of them is Titus Canyon. Just about 10 miles north on this road, you'll come to a sign that says Titus Canyon. Short gravel road will take you back in there. And you can park and walk into this amazing canyon, hundreds of feet high, smooth, polished rock. And there's mosaic rock in there. The first half mile is the most stunning. Then it opens out into a great big beautiful canyon, and you can keep walking for over 20 miles, but there's a better way to do that. When the road is open, you can actually drive down through Titus Canyon, the whole 26-mile long road. Again, check the park for road conditions. Right now it's closed, but they hope to open it up in a few weeks. So drive back towards Beatty, Nevada, then you'll turn left and you'll take a road that goes back through the mountains. It'll lead you into Titus Canyon. And as you're coming down over the mountain pass into the top of Titus Canyon, you'll find another really cool ghost town up there called Leadfield. And this is where there was a big mining boom in the 1920s. And it was, speculation ran wild, and they suckered a bunch of investors by bringing them in by cars over Titus Canyon Road to a 6-piece symphony orchestra and a sumptuous buffet. And speculation went wild. People invested. Well, a big town was built. There was a post office and everything. A year and a half later, the lead claims petered out. Boom, the town went bust. But it's a really cool place today to visit because there's all these really great cabins and structures around there. So definitely get out of your car and check out Leadfield. Then continuing heading down into Titus Canyon, watch for a spring on your right where there's some vegetation. There's some Indian petroglyphs there, or I should say Native American petroglyphs that were carved hundreds of years ago. And then take the rest of the 20-plus mile beautiful drive down through Titus Canyon, coming out at the mouth and back into Death Valley. Leaving Titus Canyon Road and heading towards Stovepipe Wells, you'll find a beautiful dune field out there. Just before you get to Stovepipe Wells is a beautiful dune field called the Mesquite Flat Sand Dunes. People love this place. It doesn't matter what time of day, there's always people out there hiking around. The most beautiful time is at sunrise, when the sun comes over the mountains and splits the dunes into sunlight and shadow. It's stunning. But it's also great to go there during sunset and at twilight when all those little nocturnal desert creatures come out. So you can go in there and you'll see little kit foxes running around, you'll see coyotes, and you'll see tiny little kangaroo rats, which if you startle them, those guys will jump 10 feet straight up with their little kangaroo rat legs. I watched one once, it went boing! So it's an amazing place to go at twilight or right around sunset. And also near Stovepipe Wells is Mosaic Canyon. If you go just through Stovepipe Wells, right on the other side, you'll see a road that says Mosaic Canyon, 2.5-mile gravel road. You can drive it in your car. Will lead you to the mouth of Mosaic Canyon. Now this is a really unusual place, and you'll want to get there early because it's very popular and the parking lot fills up. But it's a canyon narrows, travertine, smooth, polished travertine marble where the rocks have cemented into place and been polished into these stunning mosaics. And the canyon is just gorgeous as you wander through there. The first half mile is the most stunning of all. Then it opens out into a great big colorful canyon. And you can walk for miles or just do that first half mile. But funny story about Mosaic Canyon. My first season working there, I was still kind of learning my way around. And we had one of these rare low elevation snows came all the way down to the floor of Death Valley. Then the snow turned into a light drizzle. So I'm back there at Mosaic Canyon, and a park visitor walks up to me, big old guy. Hey, Ranger, is it okay to walk up into that canyon? Because, they told us at the visitor center, probably shouldn't walk into a canyon if there's a threat of rain. Well, I look up at this guy and I think you'll be okay if you just walk a little ways in, no problem, it's not raining hard. No sooner did I say that than a flash flood comes pouring out of Mosaic Canyon. Well, that man and I had a pretty big laugh over that. It wasn't a big flash flood, it was only a few inches tall, but it just goes to remind you, never ever walk into a canyon narrows if there's even a hint of precipitation, because you could run into a flash flood. Now that was a small one, but big ones have washed entire roadways away in cars, taking them with it. So always be aware of the weather around you. Also in the Stovepipe Wells area, and we'll talk about this more because this is a two-part episode. We're going to have a second episode talking about some of the more remote areas. But also in the Stovepipe Wells area is Cottonwood Canyon. And this is a beautiful 26 long loop that you can take. You can go all the way back to the back of Cottonwood Canyon, or you can hike all the way around into Marble Canyon and make like an overnight backpacking trip out of it. But it is beautiful back in there, and you will also see the wild burro population. And I'll talk more about those guys in our next episode. Cottonwood Canyon is an amazing drive. You will want a four-wheel drive vehicle to take you back in there. You can get into the first part with two-wheel, but you're risking getting stuck in a big long sand trap. So four-wheel drive back there. Well, seeing the Milky Way in Death Valley has become a thing of the past to most of us. In Death Valley you can see it, but for most of us who live in and around urban areas, this is something that you don't get to see very often. And so Death Valley is a dark sky park, and it's known for the beauty of its night skies. And when I worked there as a park ranger, I used to love giving night sky talks, because you can look up into the inky blackness of space and see the most stunning sights, including the entire Milky Way arcing overhead. And very often the park ranger staff will give night sky talks there. And so if you have an opportunity to go to a night sky talk, I definitely recommend this, because they will often bring telescopes out there and you can look into them and see distant nebula gas clouds. You can see the Andromeda galaxy. You can see globular star clusters. Look at the rings of Saturn. I mean, it is just gorgeous, the night sky there. So definitely don't miss that. So we have visited just a sampling of the many places that there are to see in Death Valley National Park. In our next episode, we're going to explore further into some of the many amazing places that you can go. Uncommon places, some you may have heard of, some you may never have heard of. Places like Skidoo, Wild Rose Canyon, the Eureka Valley, Devil's Hole. We may take a side trip to Rhyolite just outside the park. We'll go to Sidewinder Canyon and visit the stunning Racetrack Valley. Now, Racetrack Valley is that amazing place where the rocks move across the desert floor all on their own. How do they do that? We're going to talk more about that in our next episode. So if you'd like to learn more about Death Valley, there's a great website to go to. It's the park website, www.nps for National Park Service. .gov. So www.nps.gov/DEVA. That's for Death Valley, DEVA. And from there you can look at all the latest on road conditions. You can look at what kinds of programs they're offering. You can look at anything that's going on in the park. So definitely visit the website. And also, definitely check out my website, because when you go there, we've just created this brand new booklet. And I may have mentioned it earlier, but we redid this. This is called Ranger Rose's Road Tripping Tips. And this is an outstanding guide, and I have to thank my graphic artist and my publicist, Courtney Horman. She did a great job with recreating this for me. But this is a wonderful little booklet that will tell you all about things to see and do, what to bring on a road trip, what you might want to have along with you. It's a 12-page guide, and it's an invaluable tool to have along with you. So all you need to do is go to my website and sign up, and you can download this amazing booklet and have it for yourself. And then finally, to learn more just in general, please visit again my website. Learn more about me, Ranger Rose. Learn about the books that I've written. Learn about some of my my other travels and adventures, and check me out on Instagram at Ask Ranger Rose. And then finally, you're always welcome to email me at rangerrose123@gmail.com. So until we meet next, happy trails.